Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.
Greetings and welcome to the Women in Fire radio show. Today we have some excellent guests that will be presenting at our international conference that will be held in San Diego. I'd like to thank Fire Engineering for allowing Women in Fire to be part of the radio series. I'm Lisa Baker, the Southwest trustee. And today, like I mentioned, we will have some speakers and instructors from the Women in Fire International Conference that's going to be held in San Diego at the Westin Gas Lamp, September 11th through the 14th. Hands-on training begins on September 11th at the San Diego Fire Training Grounds. Hands-on classes will also be on Thursday, September 12th, as well as 4-hour workshops at the host hotel, the Westin Gas Lamp. Opening ceremonies will be held on the 13th, and there will be 2 days of classroom sessions, the 13th and 14th. There are also many fun evening events scheduled, and on Friday, there'll be an auction. Saturday, prior to the classes starting, there will be a 5K run walk to benefit the Burn Institute. I'd like to welcome and thank my guests for taking time out of their busy schedules to be a part of the radio show. And Chief Reilly, would you like to start or?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I'm Mike Reilly. I'm an investigator in the Office of Professional Standards with Loudoun County, Virginia. I have 45 years in the fire service. I started out as a volunteer in New York, got laid off in the mid-70s from New York City, and started with Fairfax County in late 1978. Rose to the rank of deputy chief, retired after 37 years as a chief fire marshal in charge of the fire marshal's office. I was then appointed by the governor of Virginia to be the state director of the fire service, the fire programs for Virginia. And I did that for 4 years. I had a collateral career in the military as a criminal investigator for 31 years as a reserve agent. And so following that retirement, I was appointed as the chief investigator for Loudoun County, running the Office of Professional Standards. My class really evolves around what supervisors should know about internal affairs, as well as those that are being interviewed. I think there's a lot of legal issues that come into play when you're talking about internal affairs investigations, and many supervisors don't understand their requirements, and many of the individuals who are being interviewed don't understand their rights as well. So there are different kinds of internal affairs investigations. We talk about citizen complaints, anonymous complaints, administrative issues versus policy violations, civil violations and complaints, on-duty misconduct, off-duty misconduct, criminal violations, both on-duty and off-duty, background investigations, and of course, use of force if you're dealing with fire marshals with law enforcement powers. There's a national organization of internal affairs investigators, and their motto is Guardians of Integrity. And so part of the class I teach talks about integrity, talks about what the requirements are of ethical behavior, consistent training, reflecting on what we do to and for our citizens, participating in personal leadership and supporting each other as we go through this process. Internal affairs investigators are routinely frowned upon to a certain degree. It was interesting. My wife called me the other day and she asked me what I was doing. I told her I was out to lunch. And so she wanted to know who I was out to lunch with. And I explained that no one goes to lunch with me, honey. No one wants to be seen with internal affairs. So as you probably are aware, when we talk about integrity, we do talk about some of the things that the National Service has talked about. The National Association of Fire Chiefs has endorsed a level of integrity for the nation. which is really pretty cool. If you read what those are about, it's actually pretty interesting when you talk about that. We also talk about the legal precedents and the different types of Supreme Court rulings that provide certain rights. Many of the people that are under investigation in public safety, as you were aware, those in public safety are held to a higher standard than the general public. So I think we've all heard about Garrity and those rights. And to give a little background, Garrity was actually a Supreme Court case that involved law enforcement, in which there was a ticket fixing scenario, and police officers were brought in. They were threatened with termination if they didn't confess or talk about what they were doing. So several of the officers actually did confess about what was going on, and the law enforcement agency immediately brought criminal charges against them. That case was then appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said you can't be coerced into testifying against yourself. So internal affairs investigations really suspend your ability to have your Fifth Amendment rights. The trade-off there, of course, is that anything you say during an administrative investigation cannot be utilized in a criminal investigation. So that's really important, because a lot of people think that if they come in there and they're talking about a crime that may have been committed, and our internal affairs investigations can be shared with law enforcement. Law enforcement can certainly go out and interview the same witnesses, or talk to other people, or define that evidence another way. You just cannot utilize it in our investigation. And I think a simple example of that is we had a case in which dispatched for seizure, and a medic crew got there, and it turned out to be a canine. It was a dog that was having a seizure. And the paramedic just happened to be familiar with administering medications to animals. So he got in touch with an online veterinarian who advised him to give some medication, which she did. State law here in Virginia prohibits anybody from giving medication, with the exception of veterinarians, veterinarian assistants, and the dog owner. So he basically violated a Virginia law, which was a Class 1 misdemeanor. Of course, I'm a paramedic. I would have done the same thing. I would have given the dog medication as well. Our medical director, suspended the guy for a day, understanding what the impact was, and then requested a copy of my report to be shared with the Office of EMS. And I indicated I wasn't able to share that information because they had the opportunity to move down and provide criminal charges for that. So my reports do not go anywhere except to the fire chief for evaluation and determination on types of discipline. And I don't have anything to do with discipline. I don't make recommendations. All I do is basically get the truth and document the truth, and basically put down all three sides of the case, and then allow the fire chief to determine what the causative action will be. So I've taken a lot of time. I'm happy to go over some more stuff, but I want to leave other time for other people. I'm happy to come back and talk about some of the other Supreme Court cases, Calkins and Weingarter. If anyone wants to know about those, we can talk about them. But Calkins really talks about the same policies and procedures and rights, except for federal employees. So if you're a federal firefighter, come into play, and not Garrity. And then Weingarten, if you're a union member, requires your employee to allow you to have a union representative at the interview.
That's Mike, that's where the firefighter Bill of Rights came in, right? Was the Weingarter?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. A lot of states have adopted the firefighter Bill of Rights. So Garrity is what the firefighter Bill of Rights is basically predicated on.
Mike, what's the name of the class?
It's internal affairs for supervisors and those under investigation.
Oh, I thought it was going to be something fun, like how to work with people who live on the edge, or,
Been there and done that. Yeah. Or how to get out of trouble when when you really don't want to be in trouble.
how to work with people that are okay being just okay. I don't know.
I will tell you though, I actually clear probably just as many people as get indicted. There are a lot of people who are falsely accused of things, and I'm not there to pile on. I'm not there to get people into more trouble. In fact, sometimes if I can turn the recorder off and provide them some fatherly advice on how to avoid this. It becomes more of a mentorship than a, good cop, bad cop scenario. I think that's why the fire chief hired me of course, I have a very significant law enforcement background, but I've also had 45 years as a firefighter in the field. So kind of like been there, done that. I've been a firefighter, I've been a paramedic. I was on an urban search and rescue team for 25 years. It went all over the world with Fairfax County. Um, been a hazmat tech, been a fire marshal. So there's not many jobs in the fire service that I haven't been involved in. So understand where many of the men and women who come into my office have been, and really express a lot of compassion and empathy for them when we go through it. I know it's difficult to be sitting in that chair.
Real quick, you mentioned off duty, people getting in trouble off duty. What's the main off duty?
So many of the violations are off duty. We can talk about domestic violence.
We only have an hour, Lisa.
I know, right? I realized that. I just realized what was the main one, what the top one or two. I mean,
violations is probably the major.
well,
DUI, driving while intoxicated, DUIs, and then sometimes simple assault or domestic violence.
Okay, wow.
Are you going to spend some time talking about any of the social media and all the stuff that now has come to the forefront, especially after this recent, Trump incident? I've saw a couple articles on that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about a lot of cases that I've worked, of course, with no names. But yeah, we unfortunately, social media generates a lot of work for me, unfortunately.
Thank you. I'm sure if I have any other questions, I'm sure I'll come up with some crazy question. Chief Wolford, you want to go next, please?
Sure. Hi, hello, everyone. Chief Wolford, Anne Arundel County Fire Chief. Anne Arundel County is in Maryland. It's the jurisdiction that we meet up to Baltimore City, right at the Inner Harbor, if y'all have been to Baltimore. And then we go all the way south past Annapolis State Capitol, basically till you hit the Chesapeake Bay. So great, combination metro department. I've got about 1,500 firefighters and 31 stations. So I think I'm presenting on Friday, maybe at least. Do you know the schedule?
I think it's Friday, yes. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's Friday. I'm like right at the lunch hour, pre-lunch or something like that. It's a great time slot. And I think the class I renamed a couple of times, but I think I left it as so you want to be a fire chief, something in that realm. For anybody that's listening, watching, I love this conference. It is one of my favorites. There is so much energy. It is always so fun in an engaging and learning way. Like I leave here and I'm like, not that I didn't plan on learning, but so much sticks because you're with fun people and all the events are great. And for women in the fire service to see other women, like all walks of life and shapes and sizes and different ranks, and the energy is infectious. And I feel like I attend a lot of conferences. I am the vice president sitting on the International Association of Fire Chiefs board. I sit on the executive board for Metro Secretaries, so I go to a lot of things, but I specifically always like to be in the room and talking with other women. And so I feel like when you do a session, you should always, I need to get something out of it. I mean, I can listen to stories and I can understand, but I'm kind of a bullet point checklist person. Like if somebody says, can you, that's going to take me like a year. So I kind of go through, there's some slides up, but it's really just like a checklist of stuff. And I've been a chief for 5 years. So I remember in my first year, and I talk a lot about this, after I took the job, one, I just want people to know it is the coolest freaking job ever. And I think the higher you get in the ranks, when you like division chiefs and deputy chiefs, they're kind of always like emails and office. And if that's what you let your job be, then it's exactly what it's going to be. But I think it's fun, but I like all of that. So we talk a little bit about strategy in the class, how you make it fun. my first year, going back to what I was saying, I can remember all the chiefs that supported me when I got my job. And I can remember like picking up the phone and calling them and having a choice set of words followed with, "You didn't tell me about that." And they would like howl laughing, like cackling, like, "You'll figure it out, have a day." And but all these things that like I wish I would have known. And some of them are like really, really minor, like they're weird little clothing things, uniform things I wish I would have known. Like as a firefighter, I always had snacks in my turnout gear pockets until you went to a fire and then you're like, well, I can't eat that snack. Like I had snacks hidden everywhere in the transport units and in the engines. Like I didn't think about that as a fire chief, but I hide snacks everywhere. It's in like my car, in my desk. There's never a time for a meal. And it's like all these little things that you don't think about that seem very meh, but they're the only way to get through your day some days. Like, scheduling bathroom breaks. Like when I first started, like for a year, my assistant, there was no time. And so we talk about like time management. So I hit a lot of big things of strategy, why you do the job, a little bit about the application hiring process, what you go through to get there. But I kind of just want to like crack the egg open a little bit more on what's happened in the fire chief's office. It's not glorious at all. I'll tell you that. Like when people are like, "Ooh, we don't want to go there." And I'm like, well, I have snacks and a little refrigerator. I feel like I'm like a good hospital. I should carry like the really good brand of Uncrustables so people will come visit me. And if you've ever worked on a transfer unit and gone to a hospital, good snacks in the EMS room versus bad snacks. So, that's really it. It's just, it's light, it's easy, hopefully people get something out of it. And I do it one for the love of the job and particularly this position, but we know as women in the fire service, there is some barrier that happens with us either mentally or physically that we stop promoting at a certain point. And we know that is an issue. And I really try to keep that in mind, supporting my women. I don't have the correlation of being a mother. I don't have children. And I am just in awe. I just did interviews today for lieutenant's promotions. And the female that came in, she died first on the list last time. She took the whole process again. She's getting ready to get promoted. In that year, she had a baby. So she's got a 3-year-old and an infant at home, and obviously a significant other that she takes care of. And she's killing it. And she's interviewing, like trying to impress me. And I'm like in awe of her while she's interviewing. Like, I feel like we should just give you the 30 minutes to take a nap. Like I'll leave you nap in my office. Don't worry about the interview. But it's just that it's like, we have to do better. Like I need more women in higher ranks in my department. I want more women. It's not scary. It's totally fine. And the higher you get, you start working more for you and the community, and there are parts that do get easier. So that's kind of it. I love this conference. I always try to go if my schedule will allow. In San Diego, way to go, you guys. Way to get a great city.
You mentioned some really good things, Chief. I think a lot of people don't really understand what a chief does. So
Yeah,
does that go in? Do you talk about that in your class? Or, I mean,
I do. Yeah, I talk about my calendar, like what gets scheduled.
Yeah, I used to sit there and listen to people, and they'd be like, "What do they do all day?" And I'm like,
it is true because I don't know, right? When you go, "Hey, I think I want to be a fire chief," you're like, "Oh." I feel like you kind of sound like an idiot because I'm like signing up for something I have no clue. Like I got like 4 people I can ask. What are you guys doing? But you're all over the.
Yeah, no.
I'm with a real estate agent and I'm looking at properties to put a new station in. And then I got another station or building asking like, "Hey, can you look at these 2 tiles? Do you want this one or this one?" And I know I don't have to do those things, but they're going to make sure to get my approval. So it's like, okay, let's look at the 2 tiles. Let's ask the captain because it's their station eventually, have them decide. Right. And then you're like, okay, we have a hiring process. Let's check on 834 people. Right. And, and then you're doing big things, right? You've got like 5 lawsuits running and you got to get briefed for testimony. you know, and then I sneak out, like I go to the station. I just went to the station and had coffee. And everybody's like, are you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know, right? Having a great time. We watched the Olympics. I snuck in on them. They were in the recliner. So I just sneak in and get in the recliner. And then when they wake up, I'm there. But like, that's what I mean. I could sit in the office all day,
Yeah.
right?
I
I mean, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to get off with you all. I'm going to do a ton of emails, but that's my choice. I'd rather be running around and, you know, we got little campers down in our training academy. I went down and gave them certificates, and
nice.
your brain has to go back and forth, right? Because here you are with campers. And the next thing you know, the lawyers are like, can we get a Zoom? And you've got to deal with the termination issue or an EEO issue. Or I spend a lot of time with Mike Reilly's in my department.
Sorry about that, Chief.
No, accountability, integrity, people, right? There's a lot to be said for upholding the values of an organization. And that can be exhausting. So yeah, it's all over the place. One of my firefighters owns a gym. I went to the gym this morning with some of my female firefighters. They taught me how to like do some powerlifting, and she's like a bodybuilder. So she was doing poses. And so, I mean, how cool is that? That's how my day started.
That's very good. Yeah, that's very cool. Does anyone have
There'll be some legit lessons in there too. I won't just ramble.
does any and we need more female fire chiefs, so
Hey, Chief, can I ask a question real quick for you, since you're talking about
Yes, ma'am.
how much of your time is not 9 to 5? Like, how much is, as a chief, what is the extra stuff? I think, right, you were talking about, we all, these things that pop up, and I think that's scary for a lot of us. It's a 24/7 a week type of thing. And how much of that are you doing,
No.
not on the,
Yes, I think that's a great question. And one of the things that we talk about is the standard you set for yourself as a chief when you come in the door as a new fire chief is the standard you're going to have to maintain. So you have to be really cautious in that first year. What is mandated outside of, I would say, 7 is really how good of a team you build around you. And then again, it's about setting expectations. My folks know I'm always out and about, but they kind of know that because I'm not running to a soccer game. I'm not putting kids on a bus in the morning. But if the expectation is for other officers, they know the deputy chiefs, for example, they're putting their kids on the bus in the morning. So they're not going to be to the office till 8. But that is their norm. So that they're not really penalized for that. The phone rings, you get woken up at night. There's things like that, but I have a phenomenal team. So I choose to be more engaged and more hands-on, because for me, that's my comfort level. And part of that's in the classes. I took a pretty untraditional path into the chief's role. So I feel like I have a lot to learn. Like I was never a captain. I wasn't a battalion chief. So I try to be really sensitive to what they do and watch them, run calls with them and ride along with them. I never want them to assume, oh, been there, done that, because 1, I haven't, or 2, I know. So, the answer to your question is really from day one, what you set yourself up for. The community events, I will say community events are evening. And if you're near an election cycle, the year before an election cycle, right? And this is the reality. It's about 16 months. The community events can be beast, and you want to be present. You want to know. But again, we set boundaries. My executive assistant knows I pretty much don't try to attend anything Friday night, and it's not because it's Friday night. It's because I am just burnt from the week, and I just close up like a clam. So here I am in an event where I'm supposed to be social. I want to go to the bathroom like 12 times just to not talk to anybody. And I know that about myself. So that's like the self-awareness piece. And then either Saturday or Sunday, but not both days. I try not to do both. But again, that's how I started, and everybody knows that. So when an event comes up on Friday, they'll be like, Chief's probably not going. I wonder who's going in her place.
Makes sense. Does anyone else have any questions? for the chief? So Natalie, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. My name is Natalie Nacker. I'm actually a captain at Orange County Fire Authority and right just north of San Diego. So I'm really excited that the event, well, kind of excited, kind of not excited. We got to go to Florida a couple of years ago, and it's always fun to travel. But San Diego is right down the street from where I live, and excited that it's going to be in my hometown and bring some of our friends from across the nation here for this wonderful event. I've been with Orange County for 17 and a half years. I've been in the fire service for over 20. I worked at Escondido Fire for a couple of years prior to Orange County. Did some volunteer time in college in Wisconsin. So I kind of have a little bit of everything under my belt there. And at Orange County, been the wellness and fitness coordinator for the department, which is the captain or the person that runs all of our wellness physicals, does all the PT for academy, works with our firefighters in all of our stations with getting physical fitness gear, helping them with programming, mobility, setting classes up, and really just promoting a culture of fitness and health with our firefighters. I've also served as, I'm currently at California Task Force 5 and for FEMA, as well as have been an EMS captain. So I really love the human body, basically, and I love being a paramedic. I love all the things that make EMS and fire really just so exceptional, because if we didn't know a lot about the human body and we wouldn't necessarily be the best firefighters we could. And that was one of the reasons why I lateraled over to Orange County, was our wellness program, because they wanted to make their number one tool in the toolbox, which was their firefighter, put a lot of, money where their mouth was. So they get them physicals and give them the state of the art training and equipment. So I'm really into the fitness side of things. The last, 5-10 years is this influx of women in fire service. It's exciting. It's just the small numbers. And we're all twins. And what kind of was a big thing for me was, I worked really hard to get into this job. And what I wanted to do is maintain that level of reputation, that level of fitness, that level of strength throughout everything. And when I became pregnant, it was really scary for me. I thought, my body was changing. I was getting curves. I was, people were treating me different. And so my class is called Pregnancy and Postpartum, Navigating These Seasons as a Firefighter. And I am part of a Science to the Station paramedic PM workshop on the 12th. So I probably have the worst time slot, Chief, versus the right before lunch. I think I might be the last of the day on the 12th, right before one of the networking. But I'm teaching this class with, there's 3 other classes, and some of them are very science-based. Mine is going to be very athletic based. We're going to talk about the athlete brain that most firefighters have, and maintain my level of fitness, how I could continue to do that without necessarily endangering myself or bouncing back fast. And I put that in quotes because I think a lot of us have different levels of comfort. We also have different resources at our own department. So some folks have to come back sooner. Some can take as much time as they want off. At our department, we don't have any family leave. So besides, the FMLA, but you still take your own time for that. So we've had women take 3 months off. Some take 6 weeks off. We've had women take a year off, all at their own expense. So I wanted to make sure that I came back ready to go as a firefighter when I was, after postpartum. And so I took these classes and I realized that these classes were geared towards the civilian women, right? they talk about the fourth trimester after you have your baby. It's such a bonding experience, and your body changes and they're going through all these things. And I sat there going, yeah, but I need to go back and pull hose. I need to go back and throw a ladder. Like, this is not, I can't just, and I kept having this, yeah, but. So, so I have a pregnancy athleticism class that I went and got certified in. I have lots of my CrossFit level 1 and 2. I have my certified strength and conditioning coach specialist certification. I have a bunch of nutrition certs. I went and I just dove head in, not only for just firefighting in general, but now the postpartum layer, mainly because there's more than just what we know on the surface. So this class is talking about the athlete brain and how sometimes we talk to ourselves and how we tell ourselves we need to, no one's going to tell us we can't do this. And so we're going to maintain what we did. So we're going to talk about the athlete brain and a lot of the ways that just you can be kinder, gentler, however, still maintaining that level of fitness that you're comfortable with while you're pregnant as well as postpartum. We're going to talk a lot about anatomy and physiology. And again, I know we're all in the medical field. However, there's very pregnancy and postpartum that are coming to the forefront. And I'm sure some of you might have seen it. It's a little bit more popular now, talking about diastasis and prolapse and, just all the things in pregnancy. But how does that affect firefighters? How does that really, take a place in our hearts and minds when we're getting ready to come back to the floor, especially when our number one injury tends to be back injury. So you already have a weakened core. How do we navigate that? How do we do that? So we're fostering our athlete brain, but at the same time, we're fostering that need to still be strong and applicable in our job. We're going to talk about all the changes from fourth trimester, so at least you have that education and awareness to make your own decisions. We're even going to talk about some breath strategies so that if you do choose to do certain things throughout your pregnancy and maintain, what you want, you at least have some tools in your toolbox so that you're not making things worse necessarily, or you're keeping things safe. And the same thing goes for postpartum. And I just really want to talk to the women and just, I've been there. It was scary for me. We all have plans on how pregnancy and how we're all going to bounce back real fast. But that's not always the case, unfortunately. So we need to be adaptable. We need to have some education in our back pocket. We need to network, learn some more things, and really, again, when at the end of this class, I think the goal is just to give them a couple of things to think about, a couple tools, some ways that they can, give them some alternatives to some of their favorite exercises. I want to show a couple of the females that I used to compete with from across the nation that have gone through pregnancy and have had really great pregnancies and not so great pregnancies, and all basically to just give everybody a little bit of things to think about and stuff, so they're not kind of going through this process blind, or they're not going through the process going, I got to maintain. It might be a little bit easier than we make it for ourselves. So I think it's going to be a really cool class. This is my first time teaching it in front of a large group. I teach this to a lot of the women that obviously work with us, but that we still haven't had a ton of women to come through and really give this on. So this is the biggest group that will be talking about it. And I really hope, if anything, it sparks kind of more of a fire, pun intended, for other, agencies and other women to kind of be that person for their department or for their area. So people can reach out to be that coach or to help them through those, that pregnancy period and that postpartum period. Number one, just so we can go back and be at a job and feel like we're still being, we're being the employee that we want to be. We're feeling that we're safe. And then also, again, because, we want to have more women in the fire service, and this is just going to come up. So as we have more women, we're going to see more pregnancies. We're going to see more of these, these issues pop up. So let's just learn ways that we can make this better, more efficient, and and then again, hopefully down the road, this will be kind of more of an afterthought now, as we get more, females in the fire service. So it should be a really good class, especially on top of all the science. It's kind of more of the athletic type stuff, and and more case studies would be really cool.
Does anyone have any questions about her class? I mean, it sounds like a really good class. It sounds like it's something that's really needed because more departments are now having pregnant firefighters, and there's really nothing in place for when they get pregnant or after they try to come back from a pregnancy. So
yeah. And don't get me started on talking about that whole stuff. We won't talk about leave or any of those, all the rules on that, because that would be a whole class in and of itself.
yes.
But depending on whatever your department allows or what you're comfortable with, we can work with that. I think that's the thing, is that we can be smart about it. And there's a couple clips that I'm going to put in there about same thing. It's really great to hear other women, and not just me, talk about what they wish they would have known. And this is, I really think this class is gonna, it should be something that we start implementing for all of our females across the nation. Because, right, pregnancy, it happens, but but like, we got to get back and pull hose and carry people and do all the things. And so it's not just like the normal civilians. We are unique in that nature, and we are expected to do the job, and we have a very physical job. And so we want to go back, we want to be back. And the last thing we need to do is worry that our body's going to fail us. And so we can definitely work with that, give the tools for that.
Thanks. Thank you.
Natalie, I have a question.
Sure.
I have two questions. One of them is, it sounded like you did a sport prior to being in the fire service. I was curious which one that was. And then second was, what did you have any mentors or drivers along the way that led you into like developing this? Or was it truly just an internal process, and you got your certifications and developed this yourself? And then also, I guess, how many women in your department have you been able to assist with the process? And you've been with the women in fire for a long time, so have you been able to regionalize anything?
Yeah, good question. So when I basically was a CrossFit regional athlete in 2013 and 14, and I was really into that, and did that and then did some firefighter competitions. Actually at FDIC, we did a couple. I was really into the functional fitness world. And then in 2017, I got pregnant. And so I kind of retired, yet I actually didn't retire. So no one to the mentors. The most, I was gonna say, the only other gal that had been pregnant before, or my girlfriend, actually, she was one of the girls I competed with. She had very different experience. She took a year off every time without pay. She would just take a year off. Not everybody could afford that, or she just made it look easy, to be honest. I don't even know how to explain it. She made everything look easy. And she's one of the gals that I'll highlight too. She's clean and jerking 185 pounds at like 8 months pregnant. And we're all like, but she made it look easy. That was her thing. And on the flip side, I wanted to do the same thing. So no mentors on that. I would say the depth of women at Orange County is not great necessarily, especially for, I'm probably one of the most senior women now. And even, 5, 6 years ago, that was pretty much still the case. So I had this burning desire because of that athlete brain. I was so worried. I was known to be a beast at that I could do one of those. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to ruin everything. So you have these two things going on where you're like, I want to be, you this stuff. And the other side of your brain is like, everything's changing. You're never going to go back. And So every day, it was a battle. And that's why there was the beginning of, I saw like a postpartum or pregnancy and postpartum class. So I signed up for that, and it was given through a CrossFit class or CrossFit gym. So I paid for that, and it was a 2-day class, and we talked about all the strategies that we're going to talk about now. And that class has since grown into a certification, and that's what I eventually ended up doing. And what you realize is you have to say, I can, but should I? And it's you can do all these things, and you'll find that doctors now will say, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Just don't introduce new things. Don't try to go here. Don't do that. But it's one of those questions like, should I? And that was a real hard question for me. It's like, should I be doing this, or do I need to be doing this? Like, what competition am I trying to win right now? And so, there's a lot of psychological things that we talked about, and that's all we're going to talk about. I'm not going to say you shall, you have to, you will not do this. And I think that empowers everybody to make their best educated decision on what's best for them. And then we've had 2 females that have gotten pregnant, and work with them, you give them some of the tools, and the one ended up having to go on bed rest just because of the pregnancy. So again, what's planned is not necessarily what happens. And the other one, everything went fine. She's amazing, all the good things. And it's relatively new. I just got this class up and running probably this last year. And so I would not say that it's regionalized. We did have a wellness workshop back it wasn't a specific class for just pregnancy and postpartum. We did talk a lot about athleticism, exercising while pregnant, getting a diastasis, all those types of things. So I'm excited because this is going to be, I'm really passionate about just fitness in the fire service. However, you throw in, the couple of these curveballs and families and all the other stuff. And I'm telling you, it can be done, even when the, certain things don't go the way you want them to. Hopefully a couple of case studies, or, just a couple examples of some of the unique women that we've had over the, in my department, as well as others, that will show, just the depth of what you can and can't do, all those types of things. So thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Jess, do you want to go next?
Sure, I can go next. My name's Jessica Cleermont. I'll actually be traveling to San Diego in September, all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. My class that I'll be teaching will be forcible entry for residential and commercial buildings. I will have a co-instructor with me. Her name is Monica Swittik, and she's actually a firefighter with San Diego Fire Services. So the 2 of us will work together. She'll actually be covering the commercial side of it. So, and specifically, she'll be going through saws and cutting roll-up doors, for example. And then myself, I'll be going through the typical residential or inward and outward opening doors for conventional forcible entry. Just a little bit more about myself. I do work for Toronto Fire Services. We are a large career department. I've heard we are similar size to Chicago Fire Department. I've been with them. I actually have my 16-year anniversary at the end of this month. I currently hold the rank of acting captain with them, so I'm kind of like a captain in training. I also like to share that I'm also a volunteer firefighter in the rural community that I live in. So I appreciate that I have both sides of a large career department, but also sometimes when you don't have the staffing to do certain things from the volunteer side. When it comes to why I want to teach this class and why people should attend, to me, the reasons are kind of the same. I have always really wanted to understand the tools. I also want other firefighters to understand the tools that they use. So again, I'm going to focus on the conventional forcible entry. I think most people understand that your halogen bar is a big lever and it gives us mechanical advantage. I really want to break it down so firefighters understand every part of it. So like, when would I use the width of my adze versus the length of my adze? Or when do I use my pick or spike? Or can I use the adze and pick together? Or when do I use my forks? And the whole idea is there's not many doors that can stop us. And then I even think to the side, again, I am by no means the biggest or strongest firefighter. I am on the smaller side. So if I understand that mechanical advantage and how it makes me stronger, it's a benefit for me. And again, I want other firefighters to understand that as well. I also plan on showing some other tricks in the class on how to increase force, and that could be when I'm using the halogen bar. So maybe I'm increasing the weight behind the bar, or am I increasing the leverage, or maybe I'm increasing my momentum to generate more force while I go through the door. And then I like to focus on the axe firefighter as well, to make sure that when you're swinging the axe, you are generating as much force as you possibly can. If you're working in a 2 firefighter scenario, and then again, I'll go back to the volunteer side where maybe you have to force a door by yourself. And I do always like to ask the students in the class, their backgrounds. So yeah, if they do come from a volunteer or a smaller department where they may have to force doors by themselves, I'd like to go through those scenarios with them. And then also try to go through 2 firefighter scenarios as well. And yeah, that's pretty much, like I said, to me, that's why I like to teach the class, and hopefully that's why people would like to attend as well, is to understand their tools better.
And one of the benefits of Women in Fire having these hands-on classes at the conferences is the majority of them are taught by female firefighters. And historically, I mean, I know when I first came in the fire service and would go to classes, there wasn't a lot of females teaching classes. And sometimes there's that little bee in the back of your head that you want to ask a question, but you don't feel comfortable asking the question because you're afraid someone's going to laugh at you or not. So it makes the atmosphere in the class is such that everyone is supporting everybody, and everybody feels comfortable asking questions and stuff when a woman is teaching it for other women. And Mike, just so you know, our conference is open to men, and we do have a lot of men that attend, especially men fire chiefs. So we keep speaking about women and such, but our conference is open to men as well. So if you're listening and you're a man, you're more than welcome to join us. We'd encourage you to join us. So Michelle and Caitlin are teaching.
Oh, can I ask Jess a question real quick?
Go ahead. Oh yeah, my bad.
No, so I'll be doing classes other than presenting also. And who doesn't love breaking down a door? But what equipment should people bring to the class, and what days are you doing it?
I believe the hands-on training, I could be wrong, I believe it runs Wednesday and Thursday. And we run 2 sessions each day, so 4 classes in total. I thought we were capping out at 12 students each, but I can already see there's more than 12 registered in one of the classes. So I'm not quite sure how that works. What was the second part of your question? Oh,
what equipment should we bring? So I'll be flying down to San Diego. Is there special equipment people will want to bring other than bunker gear?
Yeah, so I recommend full bunker gear. I always recommend bringing eye protection when we do forcible entry, and then some people do like ear protection as well. And I would assume the conference might supply ear protection, but I also don't want to assume that just in case they don't. So.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would bring it just to be safe in case that there isn't any.
Sounds good.
That's just real quick. How do you know the San Diego firefighter? How did that pairing happen?
Honestly, we don't know each other.
Oh, fun.
We were put together. And I'll just mention about the saws part. One thing I realized, San Diego, their training facility, they have a garage door prop where you can practice. To me, that's unique. Like, my department doesn't have that. So again, another reason people should sign up for the class. So
That's cool. I was thinking that's a cool relationship. Well, now you'll have it, right? I mean, Toronto, you're basically like New York to California. So
Well, that's another unique thing about the conference is they do a really good job of taking whoever puts in for it and kind of pairing them up based on their interests. And so I'm sure, Jess, that's how you got paired up with, the San Diego gal. And I got put into this Science to the Station workshop with all of the other, amazing instructors for the pregnancy and postpartum. So they did a really good job of kind of bunching it up and, putting really good instructors together. And that just is so helpful overall.
So our next two instructors are teaching together, Michelle and Caitlin. So you guys want to take it from here?
Yeah, you bet. I'll start and then Michelle will do the Catlin St. Clair. I've been a firefighter for 14 years, volunteer and career, and was just promoted to captain. When I was hired in the fire service, my calendar placeholders said half the dream, and I meant it. We have the coolest job and work with incredible people, and we have the opportunity to feel real value in what we do for our communities. But I also wanted life outside the fire service. So by 2020, I had a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. And having been through my department's process for pregnancy and postpartum twice, I wanted to improve and protect the process for folks after me. We now have around 25 women in our department, but I'm the second most senior at my department with just 13 years at the career side. So anyways, I worked with HR and admin on a policy, and we had a regional group working on pregnancy and postpartum you referred to. And some of the people that were on that group, that regional group, will also be presenting for the Science at the Station. But in that group, I met Dr. Jenke, who is recruiting for the firefighter cancer cohort study. And that stuff matters both for pregnancy, postpartum health, but also just cancer outcomes. So the firefighter cancer cohort study is a national study looking at overall firefighter health. After all, female health includes both reproductive health and prevention of female cancers. But I will bridge. Well, as you'll find out, she's going to be a doctor.
Thanks, Caitlin. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Valenti. I am one of the science geeks attending the conference. I'm a doctoral candidate in epidemiology at the University of Arizona. My research focus is on women's health, specifically women's gynecologic health. And I am the project coordinator for the firefighter cancer cohort study, the FFC's Women Firefighter Study. So as Caitlin touched on, our study, the FFCCS, is a national firefighter-led research effort with the goal of identifying and evaluating exposures that lead to an increased risk of cancer and other adverse health outcomes in firefighters. Our goal is to use this information that we collect to create effective interventions to mitigate those conditions. The study was established in 2016, and we aim to enroll 10,000 firefighters and then follow them throughout their career. So we are about halfway there in terms of firefighters enrolled. Our women's study is a sub-study within that overall FFCCS, and it was started in 2019. The majority of the research that has been done in firefighter health has been done among firefighters that are male. So our study aims to bridge that gap. Again, as I mentioned, it's firefighter-led. So all of our questions, they come from the fire service. Our women firefighter partners identified a need not only for cancer research, but also reproductive and mental health. Previous research has demonstrated that women firefighters have an increased risk of adverse reproductive outcomes, including infertility, preterm birth, miscarriage, younger age to menopause. So our study is building on previous research and working with the fire service so that we can create effective interventions to prevent that from happening. Our women firefighter study, honestly, it's not possible without the amazing collaboration that we have with the fire service. I'm fortunate that I get to work with firefighters all day, every day. I love this job. And Caitlin has been one of our amazing champions. We have fire departments that we collaborate with in the United States. Right now, we're just in the United States, not in Canada. yet. But we enroll both women, career and volunteer firefighters, and we're close to 900 women in our women's study now. And we actually have enrolled from OCFA, Loudoun, and Anne Arundel. So I really look forward to, in our presentation, we're going to go more in depth about the study, our preliminary findings that we have right now, be discussion that we can go through and first figure out how do we present these findings to the fire service, what is the best way to share this, what can we do about with what can we do with what we're finding, and then also discuss future for the possibility for future collaborations. So I look really forward to meeting you all.
Yeah, and at the seminar, we'll also cover commitments of the fire departments themselves, so the liaisons like myself to the cancer study and the people who, it's so great to be a part of the future of health and the fire service. And this study will continue for more than 20 more years. So it's important to keep the energy running with it. I'll also lightly touch on the journey of being a female firefighter, simply treading a trail that hasn't been tread often. I've got 3 kids now, and this journey requires active balancing when you got a family and a career. So while my current chapter says my mantra is I won't say yes to everything, the cancer study is an important and fairly easy yes to continue. So like Michelle said, we look forward to seeing you all at Science to the Station panel in San Diego. We'll be presenting Thursday the 12th in the afternoon. And you can see Natalie there as well, Captain Nacker. And thanks for giving us some podcast time.
Thank you. So we're just almost about out of time. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we close out the show? So I want to thank all these wonderful guests for being a part of the radio show. Thank you to Fire Engineering again. Thank you to all the listeners and members of Women in Fire. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember to check out our website, womeninfire.org. And we hope to see everyone at our conference in September. And thank you.
Looking forward. Thank you.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.